Halloween nights always carried a certain thrill. The laughter of kids, the rustle of costumes, the smell of pumpkin candles drifting through cool autumn air. But that year, the air felt different. I was 22, exhausted after working all day at a local festival, and all I wanted was silence. My phone buzzed. It was my sister, begging me to take her and my nephew trick-or-treating since everyone else had canceled. I sighed, threw on a hoodie, and drove over. I didn't know that decision would haunt me for the rest of my life. Savannah was dressed as a gothic witch, her pale makeup making her eyes pop in the dim porch light. Jackson, 11, wore a Sub-Zero mask, swinging his plastic sword with confidence. I forced a smile and told them to hop in. The neighborhood we went to was perfect. Big houses, glowing jack-o'-lanterns, and kids running everywhere. For a while, it felt normal, safe. After about an hour, the crowd began to thin. We reached the far end of the neighborhood. Darker, quieter, fewer lights. That's when I saw it. Across the street, standing completely still in a yard with no lights on, was a figure, all black, cloak, hood, mask, motionless. I thought it was a decoration until it moved, just slightly, like it was watching us. A chill crawled up my neck. I told the kids to stay close and keep walking. They laughed at first, thinking I was joking until they saw my face. Savannah's grip tightened on my arm. Jackson looked confused. We picked up the pace, heading for the car, but then I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching on fallen leaves. I turned my head. The figure was now on our side of the street, walking toward us. My pulse spiked. "Get in the car," I whispered. We were only a few houses away. The steps behind us quickened. I glanced over my shoulder again. The figure was closer, about 50 feet now, the streetlight glinting off something metallic near its hand. I reached into my bag and pulled out my licensed handgun, heart pounding. When I spun around and aimed, the figure froze. Then slowly they lifted their mask. It was a woman, maybe mid-30s, with a blank, eerie expression. "Don't shoot," she said flatly. "I'm an undercover officer. There's been a break-in nearby." Her tone was too calm, too rehearsed. Something was off. "Show me your badge," I demanded. She didn't. She just smiled faintly and said, "If you didn't have that gun, this night would have ended differently." My blood ran cold. Before I could respond, movement flickered in the dark. 4 more people stepped out between houses, all dressed the same, all wearing masks. They didn't speak. They just stood there, watching. "Get in the car!" I shouted. The kids scrambled in. I kept my gun raised and backed up, shaking. The woman's smile never faded as we peeled out, tires screeching against the pavement. In the rearview mirror, I saw them standing perfectly still under the flickering streetlight, watching us vanish into the night. When I finally dropped the kids home, I sat in my car, hands trembling. None of it felt real. But 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. No message, just a photo. It was my car, parked outside my apartment. I called the police. They said there wasn't enough to investigate. No threat, they said, no crime. But I couldn't shake her words. If you didn't have that gun, every Halloween since, I keep the lights low, the doors locked, and the gun closer than ever. Because I still see her in my dreams. The woman in the mask, waiting in the dark for the one night I finally let my guard down.
Halloween night had always been my favorite. The movies, the candy, the way the whole world seemed to flirt with fear for just one night. But that year, I spent it alone. My friends were out at parties, kids were done trick-or-treating, and my small house sat at the end of a quiet street wrapped in shadows. I had just settled onto the couch with a beer and a horror movie marathon when I heard it, a soft, deliberate tap at the window. At first I ignored it, assuming it was the wind or maybe a stray branch. But then it came again. Tap, 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 slow, rhythmic, almost patient. I muted the TV and listened. The room was dead silent. My heart thudded in my chest as I turned my head toward the window and froze. A face stared back at me through the glass. A mask, white, expressionless, with 2 hollow eye holes that seemed to swallow the light. The figure stood completely still, not moving, not breathing, just watching me. For a few seconds I couldn't move. Then instinct kicked in. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911, whispering to the dispatcher that someone was outside my house. They told me to stay calm, that an officer was on the way. But when I turned back to the window, he was gone. My stomach sank. I crept toward the door, locking every latch I could find, peering out through the blinds. Nothing. The street was empty. I told myself it was a prank, maybe some kid in costume trying to scare me. I even laughed a little, trying to shake off the fear. That's when I heard the doorknob turn. It was slow, deliberate, metal scraping softly against metal. I backed away, eyes fixed on the handle. It jiggled once, twice, then stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed a kitchen knife and stood perfectly still, listening. The silence stretched on forever. Then came a thud from the back of the house, the sound of a window sliding open. I ran toward the bedroom, heart pounding, and slammed the door shut. The floorboards creaked outside. I pressed myself against the wall, knife shaking in my hand. Through the crack under the door, I saw a shadow move. Tall, wide-shouldered, slow. Then a voice, low and muffled behind the mask, said, "You shouldn't have looked at me." I don't remember screaming, but I must have. The next thing I knew, flashing lights filled the windows, and officers were dragging me outside. The door was splintered, the back window shattered. But the man, he was gone. They found muddy footprints circling the house, big ones, the kind that didn't match any local shoe brand. They said he'd probably been casing the neighborhood, waiting for someone to be alone. But I know what I saw, the way that mask reflected the TV light, the voice that sounded like it came from somewhere too deep to be human. Now, every Halloween night, I leave the lights off and stay quiet. Because sometimes, when the world gets loud with laughter and fake fear, the real monsters come out, and they don't need costumes to find you.
I was 12 the year my parents took us to Ashwood Resort for Halloween weekend. The place was famous for its decorations, fake cobwebs stretched across the fences, glowing pumpkins on every porch, and a massive haunted hayride that everyone said was unforgettable. It was supposed to be the perfect family getaway. But what I remember most isn't the laughter or the candy, it's the man I saw that night, and the way he looked at me. The resort sat right beside a dense patch of woods that turned pitch black after sunset. That evening, my friend Mason and I joined the crowd lining up for the hayride. The wagon creaked under the weight of kids and parents bundled in blankets, the air filled with laughter and the smell of cider. I remember feeling the thrill of it, the eerie music, the flickering torches, the actors jumping out from behind trees. It was all fun, until I noticed him. He wasn't part of the show. No costume, no mask. Just a tall man standing at the tree line, half in shadow, his head tilted slightly as if he was studying the crowd. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't speak. He just stood there, staring directly at me. I looked away, pretending not to notice, but when I glanced back, he was gone. I told myself it was just my imagination. After the ride ended, Mason and I decided to grab some hot chocolate. The resort lights shimmered in the distance, and for a while, everything felt normal again. But as we walked past the edge of the forest, I heard a twig snap. We stopped. The sound came again, closer this time. Then a low voice whispered, "Hey boys, want to see something cool?" Mason thought it was one of the actors messing around. He laughed and called out, "Nice try," but my gut twisted. Something about that voice was wrong, too calm, too deliberate. Then we saw movement, that same man from the woods, stepping into the dim light, his face pale and expressionless. We ran, sprinting toward the lights, our shoes slipping on wet leaves, branches whipping our faces. I could hear him behind us, heavy footsteps pounding the dirt, faster than I thought anyone could move. I didn't look back, I just ran until the music from the festival drowned out everything else. When we finally burst out of the trees, gasping and shaking, a staff member rushed over. We pointed back toward the woods, trying to explain what happened. They searched. No one was there. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. The security guards said it was probably an actor off schedule or a prank gone wrong. But later that night, when my parents tucked me in, I saw something on the patio outside our cabin, muddy footprints leading right up to the glass door. I never went back to Ashwood. And every Halloween, when the wind wrestles through the trees, I still hear that whisper in the dark, want to see something cool.
Don't forget to subscribe because there are more stories like this, waiting to be told.